Here we are at Era Stories again. Today I'm very excited because we are in part 2 of the Freddie Leiba story. Freddie Leiba, sitting right here so I can talk in front of him. I'm not saying anything he doesn't already know. Freddie Leiba is one of the most extraordinary stylists in the industry. He was a stylist before I think I was still modeling, I think. Well, no, you were styling before I even got started in the business. And where it all began, the Jean Machine on Kings Road. Freddie, welcome to Era Stories again. This is the second time around.
Well, thank you for having me. Well, I was born in Trinidad.
Yes.
My mother was a seamstress, and I used to bully my mother on how to dress. And if I didn't like the dress, I'd take a scissor and snip it up the back.
As any case, with good taste.
However, my mother, for Christmas, gave me a library card. And there weren't a lot of fashion wear things. However, the library card is what connected me with fashion, because I would join the library and there would, Donna Vreeland was the editor of Vogue in those days. And I discovered these magazines with Wilhelmina and all these incredible models, Marissa Branson, all these, and I had never, and that is what I wanted to do. The magic happens.
The magic happens.
And when this is in Trinidad.
Yes.
When I came to New York, my mother.
Were you getting British Vogue or American Vogue?
American Vogue. No, American Vogue.
And what year was this?
Oh God, this is 60s.
Early
50s, 60s. Yeah.
Did you ever get to work with Diana Freeland?
I met her. I didn't work with her.
What was that like?
Well, I met her because she kind of knew me from going to the shows with Angela Leontelli and all that sort of stuff back in the day. And she invited me to come to her home on Park Avenue.
Wow.
And it was all red.
Really?
Yeah. And with the more extraordinary, it was a huge, one of those big time
As
things.
It should be.
Yeah. So I met her then. And I wasn't friendly with her, but she was very kind to invite me there. So, but she was what she did for fashion was a big inspiration, because it was the days of Wilhelmina, Vorushka, and all these incredible models.
So Wilhelmina was a model at that time. That was before she even opened the agency.
Of course, yeah, totally, yeah. But I would get all these books and seeing these incredible women in all these, a famous one is Wilhelmina with a hat made out of flowers, and it was very inspiring. So in the library, I'd borrow these books, and and when I came to New York, the first thing I did, my mother got me into a school, which is FIT had just opened.
Yes.
And in my class was Stephen Burrows.
Oh wow, Stephen.
Yeah.
What was he like as a young boy?
We still used to hang out together. We were clubbing and all of that, but with Stephen, William Hill, he died sadly, Tracy, illustration. Anyway, it was the early days, the beginning of FIT. However, FIT, besides learning fashion, you had to do liberal arts.
Yes.
I was not good at liberal arts. So I left FIT and I went to Trapegan, which is only concentrated on fashion. And Trapegan was a school on Broadway up in the theater district. And that was all about fashion. And then the 70s was coming around when there was all these things like the Love-In and all that.
Yes.
So they had an event called the Design In.
Design In.
And then we all had to give us a certain amount of time, and we all had to design something right then and there.
Oh, wow.
Drawing, of course, yeah. And in one of the things I was part of one of the winners. So Early Women's Wear, they did a picture with all the kids I don't have that picture anymore, who did the thing. So that was a style. I don't know what a stylist was.
It's very interesting. I think in this industry, I always say part of my favorite thing of the industry is, yes, I love the clothes, I love the chiffon, I love the sparkle, but the people. And people say fashion is fickle and people aren't loyal, and that's true. That's the business side. But we've been friends for many decades.
Yeah, but I came there. I wasn't competing with anyone.
Exactly.
I was just doing my job. But you see, the thing is, born in Trinidad, which is it's an island. There are a
Yes.
lot of that, joining the library was
Yes.
important. And also, who they were making a movie,
Oh, yes.
Fire Down
yes,
Below,
yes, yes,
with
yes.
Richard Hayward.
Yes, you told the story to Musa. That was great, and you saw her. You
And
were so
and
inspired.
because my mother used to take, and all of the big hotels was around the Savannah, which is like a small central park. And my mother would take me for a walk every Sunday because they had gardens there and show me around. And I see this woman get out of a car going into the hotel.
Yeah.
This yellow dress with red hair. I'd never seen a woman like that in the Caribbean. It was Rita Hayworth.
Well, were you a fan of movies and TV? Did you watch like movie stars?
Oh
and
yeah,
TV in
no,
those
but
days?
you had chewing gum. You all had in those days, and it was an MGM chewing gum.
Oh, really?
So it was a flat chewing gum, and in it you get a movie star picture.
Ooh, oh my gosh!
And then you buy an album, and you can fill the album in.
Wow, I would have been doing that.
Yeah.
So
that was my connection.
Who were your favorite movie stars at the time? Obviously, Rita Hayworth. Who did you kind of see? And
Well, you went a lot to see Marilyn Monroe, adults only.
Oh, really?
So it was a different time. So it was Rita Hayworth. I had to see people like Betty Hutton and all the musicals.
Yes.
Eventually, I started realizing the Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell and all that.
And Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren.
Taylor. Did you ever get to work with Sophia Loren?
I met her.
Really?
She came to my apartment in Central Park West.
Everybody was at that apartment.
But the reason why she came to that apartment was not because of me. Anthony Clavet, who was a big mate, he was a makeup artist for David Bowie,
Yes.
and he did Sophia Loren. But he would stay with me. He was Canadian. He stayed in my apartment in Central Park West. And that's when I would meet, I wouldn't dare to be their friends, but they would come to see Anthony.
Well, I think I don't know if everyone knows that you have to watch the first interview with Freddie that Musa Jackson did. Freddie is, besides being an extraordinarily talented stylist and a kind human being, I think one of his gifts to the industry is he's a connector, and he brings people together, and he used to do the most amazing dinners at his place with all kinds of interesting people. Princess Margaret, I think, was there. Janet Jackson, obviously, and Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people can say that Janet Jackson, Sophia Loren, and Princess Margaret were at your house for dinner. And I think the funny story was you were saying
Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson. Yeah, I think a few people might have had him over for dessert. But I think it was interesting. You even spoke in your last interview, and you were saying the people in your building didn't really pay attention to you because you were
a person of color, But when they saw who was coming into my apartment, they would stop.
Yes.
The people coming in, trying to invite them to their place, and because these people will come into my apartment and say, my guests. What are these people all about? I don't know them, and they invite me to. Yeah.
So funny. Who would you say, like, again, we were kind of saying about the people are the important thing of the industry. I love that we have these friends through the decades that we really, grow with, like Stephen Burrows and Pat started in your time also. Who are some of your favorite people that you've come along on this journey through Oz? I always say it's like this wild journey through Oz.
Well, I'll tell you who was very kind to me, Michael Volbrecht.
Michael Volbrecht, really?
Yeah.
Beautiful designer, really incredible.
Well, he took me as an assistant, and I helped him with the collection because he went to Bill Blass. You remember?
Oh yes.
And then when he went to Bill Blass, he said, "If you hire me, you have to hire him. If they hire him, they have to hire me." And so I went to Bill Blass, and because
this is before he had his own collection.
No, he had his own collection before. Yeah.
And then he went to Bill. Okay.
And then he went to Bill Blass. He retired and came back.
Oh, okay.
And he.
I think people don't really see things like this. I think is the point of era stories. People don't necessarily know who Michael Volbrecht even is. I do because I know
the illustration.
Work, Giorgio Sanangelo. People like that. Designers, Scott Barry. People come and go in the industry. Fashion does change. And people don't remember all the names. We think we know all the designers. Tom Gucci, Armani, Mugler, but people like Michael Volbrecht had a big impact on the industry.
But also the thing is, I wasn't there to. I was there to do work because I was taking care of my mother, and also I went there and I worked hard. I was there, and the people who like the Michael Volbrecht and the people who hired me, really took care of me also. They protected me because they're working for, they have a big corporate people working with them. And they had a few people. There's a little bit of prejudice was happening around that time too. Even in my building, they couldn't understand why a person that looked like me. And the only reason how I got that apartment was the English guy from England.
Yes.
He was
where most English guys are from.
Well, he was the director for Vidal Sassoon.
Oh wow!
And when Vidal Sassoon came to America, he ran Vidal Sassoon.
Did you work with Vidal?
No, met him but didn't work with him.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but I had a relationship with this guy.
Yes.
And that's how I got that apartment.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, I was also noticing in your interview with Musa, what I think was great about the second interview is I watched the interview with Musa, I've watched it several times, and so I wanted to kind of expand upon a lot of the things you talked about.
A lot of things I didn't, a lot of personal things I didn't do too much with.
Well, I think it's very interesting. So you and I both did a lot for diversity in the industry.
Totally,
I was the first editor of Vibe magazine, and in the early 90s, this was, and we couldn't get clothes for Black people. Like when I would call,
Harper's Bazaar was
when
the
I
same,
would call, exactly, and I saw you said something about that for Essence, so I want to talk about that a little. I would call, and I called for Calvin Klein, I called Ralph Lauren, and I called Tommy Hilfiger, and they all said no, and not the designers. This is important.
The PR people.
It was the PR people.
Yeah.
Designers are liberal. You know what I mean? They want everyone in their clothes. They have a vision. They want to see.
It's the PR people.
It's the PR people that are small-minded, and a lot of times, although we love a lot of the PR people, they have a smaller vision. They don't necessarily have the same vision that a designer would have. So they are saying no. A lot of times when the designer finds out, I've had to call, and I'm sure you have to call designers a lot. It's like, hey, your PR team. I had something with, recently where I had one of the designers and I couldn't get a dress for Mary J. Blige. And they were like, oh, she's not our size. She's not our blah, 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 blah. And then I called them and I sent an email. I used to do it all the time. I said, your PR team is not lending me clothes. And then you would get the dresses. And I'm sure you did that too. But I say this all to say, when they would say no to me, I was like, I don't understand. And I called Marc Jacobs, who was a kid, I knew him from Charvard, we were both on the Second Street. And I called Marc and I said, I'm at Vibe magazine with Quincy Jones magazine, and they're not letting me have clothes for Black people. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know, I don't understand. So I think so many of us just function.
That's a little later on, early on in my time. Because don't forget, I was doing 60s and 70s,
But so was there racism, or was it easier in that time?
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't easier.
It wasn't easier.
But you didn't really have Black models and Black celebrities to dress. You were the Black person in the room at that time. Or Andre. It was you, Andre, and Michael Roberts. Really were the three Black people. There really were Black women in the industry necessarily.
And also,
there were as designers, there were some, but.
Yeah, but it was some, but the thing is, my focus wasn't about, my focus was just to take care of my mother. I didn't want anything negative. If they want me to sit in the back, it's fine. You know what I mean? I do it. So I never think, but the thing is, quietly, I tried to support people. For instance, when the AIDS, I told you about the story, the AIDS story, and, I figured, and I did it for Africa. Yes. The African.
Well, you did that extraordinary book with, I forget the photographer's name, about different kinds of beauty and women of different cultures.
Well, because that's what I've been born to because of where I came from and all of that. And my mother.
What was the name of the book in the photography?
Diverse Beauty.
Diverse Beauty, and who's the photographer?
It was, oh God, I'm having a senior moment now.
You just told me 5 minutes ago, and I can't remember. So we're both having a senior moment.
Alex Liborowski.
Liborowski. That's not a name that easily rolls off the tongue.
No,
so understandable to forget.
So he invited me to work on the project with him, and it was perfect right on, because everything I wanted to do is to give to the people who have a hard time.
I think it's very interesting because we've had sort of, your career started before mine, but we've had very parallel careers. And what I know people say about you I believe is what they say about me. You've always had integrity. You did what you said you were going to do. You never stole anything. You never lied. You never cheated. And a lot of other people in the business are shady like that.
Right, of course.
So you and I have very good, and I think you could say the same. You've heard about me in the industry. You've never.
Well, that's why I knew you. Of course.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Both of us were general. But the interesting thing is, you moved in a more stealth manner. You're a gentleman. I'm less gentlemanly, and the road that you paved before help people like Musa and I as we came along, because I got to be loud. I got to be on TV and fight for women of color.
Right.
In 1996, I dressed J-Lo and Selma Hayek and Angela Bassett and Jada and Will and Courtney B. Vance. There were never that many people of color at the Oscars until that year. That was a change. And it's so interesting because of people like you before that. You have a great story, and we don't have to go too into it because you told it to Musa, but you had a shoot with Julia Roberts, and you kept the Calvin Klein clothes separate, which you told us in the other story, so I'm not going to go into it. But
Karen,
you kept the clothes, and you called Karen Alexander, who is stunning, and I actually just texted her the other day, and I'm concerned because she lost her house in the fire.
Well, I've sent clothes and stuff for her.
I texted her the other day, and I haven't heard back. We love you, Karen. If you're out there, we love you.
Yeah.
But you kept the Calvin Klein collection to the side.
Yes.
And then you ended up shooting Karen, and she was the first Black woman on the cover of
Absolutely, yeah.
What year was that?
80s.
80s, okay. So that was quite a bit after Beverly being the first person, Black woman on Vogue.
And I didn't do Beverly for Vogue, but I did Beverly for European.
Really?
Yeah. And I put it in the beginning of Norma Kamali, and I still have a picture in my apartment.
Was Beverly one of those people that just showed up on set, or did she bring her own style to it?
No. Those girls were young, and
Beverly always describes it kind of as she seemed a little innocent in the industry. She didn't even know she was going to have
it was Peggy Dillard and Beverly.
Dillard.
So I did those at the beginning, but they were wonderful.
Peggy is extraordinary. There's a model, Tracy Africa.
Yes.
That's an interesting story. I want to get Tracy on Era Stories. I think she'd be great. So I'm not going to tell too much of the story, but she was trans in the 80s when Bruce Jenner was going around as a man at the Olympics and at night putting on dresses.
Right, yeah.
And Tracy's had an extraordinary career, but Tracy got outed in the middle of a photo shoot in Paris, and Peggy knew all along that
I didn't know that
Tracy was trans, and Peggy's brother, I believe, from what I've heard, was a DJ, and he was gay. So she clocked it at a casting where they were on a line for Abaddon, and she kept her secret all the time. And she supported her. I love that about Peggy Dillard, besides the fact that she's an extraordinary beauty. But I think a lot of those girls in those times, then we had the Gia, who had...
I work with Gia.
We're going to talk about that, because I think that's interesting about the Diana Ross shoot you talked about also. So Gia was one of those people, and I think I had that when I was in my modeling career, where when you came in, you kind of were like, well, can I put that with that? And you'd always come in with like your torn jeans or your leather jacket or something. People say, leave your jacket on, use your jeans. How was it working with Gia? She definitely had her own vibe.
Well, no, I had a good, it was a French Vogue cover, and Kenzo had just started his collection, and it was just a blue sweater.
I love that blue sweater, I love that one.
So that I did with Gia. And then the other thing was, so that was it. And then I did a swimsuit story also for a European magazine. And it's all the beginning of Norma Kamali and all of that.
And were you on a trip in the Caribbean with her?
No, we did it in the studio. Albert Watson.
And how was she? Albert loved Gia.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of great stories about Gia. She was a rebel going out the window with jewelry and gowns on.
Yeah, totally.
What were your experiences with her?
No, I never had any of those experiences with her. Or if it happened there, I wasn't aware of it, because my concentration was with the photographer. And hair and makeup and, But no.
But she was definitely one of those people, like there's the story that she was working with Scavullo, and that's how they got the Boss cover, I think, with her in the white t-shirt, because Gia came in the white t-shirt and torn jeans. And they were like, oh, use your clothes. So I think, who were some of the models that you think really had personal style and brought that to the shoots?
Pat Cleveland had personal style.
And really, and how did she bring that into the job?
Well, I think, Pat is older than all of those girls.
Yes.
And Pat was working with Yves Saint Laurent in Paris, and I was at the Battle of Versailles.
Were you really? Let's talk about that.
So the Battle of Versailles, there was an illustrator called Harvey Boyd who worked for Women's Wear Daily, and I was friendly with him, and I was friendly with Pat at the beginning because of Stephen Burrows,
of course,
because I was in school with him. So when they got this invitation to do the Battle of Versailles, where it was all the Americans against the French designers, battling it out.
In the chiffon trenches.
Yeah. So I went along, just to, not to do anything, just to go because they invited me.
And did you realize how important that was going to be at the time?
No.
That's the funny thing when you live life long. You don't. We just did everything on a day to day, and now it's history.
Well, it's like going to a party or something, because I wasn't even styling as those days.
Oh, really? You weren't even styling?
I was still in school because it was Stephen Burrows and all the beginning and all of that. The styling really started when I went to England. So, I was a teenager there, and so I went there, experienced it. We had a tour in Versailles. Yeah. I came back to New York, and then when I had the.
Did you feel the magic when that happened? Like when suddenly there's talk about how once they came out, the Americans came out.
Well, that was interesting. The Kennedys were sitting in the audience.
Which Kennedys?
Jacqueline Kennedy.
Really?
And it was unbelievable, and all of these wonderful, So. But what happened is that the Parisian girls went on very classic.
Yes.
But all the music played when all the rock and roll, not rock and roll, but Marvin Gaye and all that. When the American girls came out and said they were like,
Hat was twirling. And Alva had the one shoulder dress on.
and all the girls of that time. So that was my experience with, but I was taken there by Charles Tracy, who was a photographer in those days. Yeah.
Was he a hat designer?
No.
A designer, right? He designed also?
No. I'm sorry. Is another Tracy.
I was like, wait a minute, I don't know that part.
That's an English guy who does the hats. Yeah.
So was Jacqueline Kennedy at your apartment ever?
No.
Oh, did you get to work with her?
No. I just saw her in the thing. Yeah.
Who are your style icons? Rita Hayworth, we know.
Well,
for me, it was Princess Grace. Princess Grace, I just loved her style.
Yeah.
It was so important.
But earlier than that, I think it was, in Trinidad, where I learned about it was going to the movies.
Yeah.
A lot of those movies were adults only if it had too much love making in it.
Ooh.
But Rita Hayworth and Ava Gardner.
Really, those were your girls?
Yeah, those two that I really was inspired by.
Did people know that Rita was Latina? Right? Rita was Latina.
Yeah, she had red hair, but yeah.
But did people know that? Because she played Gilda. There was that whole story about men. There was a saying that and they go home.
I can't remember. I know there's some mixed in. I can't remember one. But she was the one. And then when I saw her in Trinidad doing Fire Down Below, that's when I really saw her in person. Yeah.
What would you've been in this business how many decades now?
Since the 60s.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 7 decades, Freddie. Wow. What would you tell Freddie Leiba in the 60s now? What would you say, knowing what you know now,
Well, what I know now is that I speak to students now, and I speak to them. Education is important. Reading a book, knowing the history of fashion.
There you go.
Yeah, and so because I still have a library in my apartment of going back to the 20s, and and I had every magazine from the beginning of all of the Dana Vreeland magazines. I had them all. When I moved to this place, I sold them because I didn't have.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, magazines are I've had them for years, and when I moved back to New York, I had to leave them behind. They're in storage.
But they were the Bible for me.
Yes. But what about? I think this generation, and not to get down on this generation, but I think this generation misses so much.
Because we have the internet now, and everything is on the internet and posting one another. But
it's so fast.
It's so fast.
We couldn't wait for the next issue.
But also, people don't read anymore. They're looking at all what's on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Swipe.
Yes. So it's a whole different thing. I mean, in my day, I had to go to the library to get information.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I think that also, there's this whole saying, I've really been against this saying. Someone recently told me, fake it till you make it is the new making it.
That I don't know. No.
I say, if you think faking it till you make it is the new making it, then you didn't make it.
Yeah.
That tells me you didn't make it, because making it is really, what's it like to be there in these spaces with these people?
Well, also, the thing is, listen, I had to be on, you got to go there, you open yourself to these people. I'm desperate to learn about it. I want to be in it. And by having that thing is that by thirst, learning, that thirst is by learning and listening.
I think what people don't understand a lot of times now is, I think because we talked about this a little on our walk over here together. It's a beautiful day in New York. And we talked a little about the notoriety and how, you were someone who never really wanted to be in front of the camera. You stayed behind the cameras. I was a model. And then when I got to LA, it called me, it's not that I didn't have a choice, but the TV station started calling because TV was looking for that. Everything changed in that time in '96 when E came and In Style magazine came. And people talk about me being the first stylist, but I was never the first stylist. You were actually one of the early stylists.
I can't really tell. But I never thought about it. It was about taking care of my mother. And that's the only craft I had.
Well, we have a very special guest, I think, coming in here in just a moment, who's going to talk a little bit about what it's like to work with Freddie. On him, but this is going to be great. Is our guest there?
Hi. It's your Uncle Marc.
Marc, your ears like I ran into Fran yesterday.
Oh, I know, you told me. You saw her after a little dinner.
In the vintage market.
I know, what a weird place for her to be.
Yeah, well, there's a lot, New York,
Was this Fran Cooper?
No, Fran from...
Oh, his friend, yes. Yeah, your friend.
So what are you talking about? Are you talking about the old days of Interview when we started working together?
I've been waiting for you because I knew you were coming, so
we started it, but we want you to, yes.
Yeah, Freddie and I worked...
Freddie, tell us about this experience.
Well, Freddie was the go-to guy at Interview to get pictures styled, and a lot with Albert Watson and a bunch of other photographers. And he was I didn't realize that I don't think I realized it was his first job with me, right, Freddie? Was it?
Well, how we met is that when you came to in London, Gabby and I were very friendly. Gabby Longy.
Right.
And I think I met you in those days because I didn't know this.
Yeah, I knew Gabby I knew Gabby in London. And then I must have come back to London. I mean, I came back to London all the time after I moved.
But that was when I met you. It went through Gabby, and Gabby was doing a little bit, and I started assisting her. And then, for some reason, you and Robert Hayes, I got a call to start working with you.
Right, because Robert Hayes
I think what it was, you know what it is, I think what it was, because I was working for Brahms, and Brahms had all of the names of all of the designers, Armani and all of that. I was all about getting the advertising,
That's right.
For the magazine. And that was a connection.
Even in those days, it was all about the advertising?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's why all these people work for us for nothing, because they got amazing pictures with incredible photographers, and then they could show those pictures around in their portfolio, and then they got advertising from it. I mean,
I remember we did Barry Keith's scene Ford had just started his career, and I used the belts. You remember he used to do all those belts?
Yeah.
Barry Keith on one of the, a guy was on the cover.
Well, we relied on you, Freddie, to bring us the new stuff that was going on, and the new clothes, and that's what. Remember, we did Nora's Church with Albert, and with a I had a ship going through her hair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Who was
Yeah,
that?
it was a dream I had,
Wow.
and then you helped to
And
make
then
it.
Captain Oxenberg, you did Captain
Captain
Oxenberg.
Oxenberg with Norma Kamali, the Norma Kamali dress.
Who
What
was
was
that
Captain like
one?
as a kid? I worked with
No problems. We had no problems in naming the girls.
Oh yeah, wait.
Um,
Did you do Shaka Khan?
Shaka
Shaka
Khan,
Khan, yes,
yes.
yeah, but the beginning of Terry Mugler, and she wore the Terry Mugler.
Oh, right.
Shaka is quite a personality to work with.
Yeah, we did Shaka with Gordon Monroe. I think Gordon
Yes,
Monroe shot that for us.
we did, yes. And she's
Yeah,
wearing the
I mean,
sequin dresses and double page.
it was amazing days
Double page
because they
dresses.
didn't have the celebrities didn't have everybody following them around the way they do now. So they just showed
Yes,
up at the studio. Freddie would dress them. We'd pick some stuff out and do the pictures, and then goodbye. I mean, I was
yeah.
only interested in the photographs.
Yeah, and there really wasn't the insane curiosity about what celebrities are doing and there's just this invasive behavior. You didn't know every detail of their life.
But also, they didn't come with all this. No celebrities come with a whole entourage of people, their publicists and all that. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, no, there was no big entourage then. I remember even Diana
Yeah.
Ross showing up, I think by herself to shoot. They just showed
They
up
didn't
to get great pictures, and they knew with
take
our team we were going to do great pictures together. So they were kind of okay with it. There was nothing else around like it in those days.
Well, you were really instrumental too in the fashion industry. I mean, you knew Danielle Luna. I mean, there's from years ago. Did you work with Danielle?
I met her because when I lived in England, I think she was living in Rome.
Which one?
Danielle
Who?
Luna was
Danielle Luna.
Oh, Danielle Luna. Yeah. No, I knew Danielle in Rome. She used to come up. I was on the
Yeah.
Prix de Rome at the American Academy, and she used to come up and visit me wearing a crazy Mick Jagger wig, I remember. She'd come up wearing she was 6'1" or something, and she'd come up to the
Yeah.
American Academy. They didn't know what the hell was going on with her. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
Loved her.
Yeah. I only met her once.
Well, that in the days, it's so interesting. We talk about different characters now in the media, the Kim Kardashians, the Kanye West. But like in those days, you had Danielle Luna, you had Pat Cleveland, you had Grace Jones. The models were very unique and they had their own rhythm and beat.
Yeah, no, I mean, because while I was doing interview, I was also doing Vogue Patterns, which was a very staged,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd go from Vogue Patterns with Arthur Elgort to Interview at Night with Arthur Elgort or something. So we would just keep the show going and everything. But Freddie was such a part of the team, and he was always there. You could count on him to deliver, really great styling. Basically, there was never a problem.
But you know what we had? And the thing is, one of the wonderful experiences I had as with Chloe Picasso is that she had the most amazing apartment on Park Avenue.
Yeah, I remember going to it with you, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But she was really, really. She gave me a pillow I have in my apartment still of her father.
Oh wow!
Yeah, her father's art. But she was a club girl. I used to drive her to Studio 54 and all the.
Yeah. I remember we did. What?
Have you been to Studio 54 once or twice?
At one point, I used to ride my bicycle up there, and they'd put it up in the office, and then I'd go and get my bike at the end of the night and bike home with it. So if I could, because I mean, as much as I could bike home in those days. Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, those were incredible days. I was there, several days a week, basically, going into.
So,
how did we do it? I didn't have a real job. I worked there at that time. I guess that Freddie knew me when I was a prostitute there. David LaChapelle. Yeah. But how did you do it? To work, to party all night and party hard. And then go to work.
that was the life in the 80s.
Well, with cocaine, it was a lot easier. If you snorted a little coke, you lasted longer, basically. So yeah, I mean, we would just go there. I'd work at like Vogue Patterns. I'd go up to interview midday. I'd go back to Vogue Patterns. Then I'd go back to interview at the end of the day. And then I'd go back to my little apartment on 22nd Street and go out to dinner with people and then keep going, go to studio or
And
wherever.
where did you go? Where were some of the restaurants that
Well, I went to like, I'm trying to think where I would go. Well, 1 Fifth Avenue, we would go to all the time on 8th Street and Fifth Avenue. That was like a major place to go to, which I loved. There was a place all the way uptown. We would go to, maybe a little later, we'd go to Un Deux Trois when that was going on.
yeah.
And I'm trying to think where else.
With the crayons on the table. Yeah, that was like the first place I ever saw crayons where you could write on the table.
There's one important thing that Marc did. When Andy Warhol decided he wanted to become a model, and he wanted to join Zoe, and then Marc created this long couch.
It was a,
with Zoe models, and Andy Warhol was in the middle of it, right?
Well, I had designed I was with Zoli and Zihuatanejo in Mexico on vacation, and he asked me to do the Zoli book. I had already done the Ford book. I designed the Ford models book, and then Zoli said, oh no, first I did Zoli, and then Zoli actually did my contract with Eileen Ford to do the Ford book. But for Zoli, I designed this like very big, oversized book for the model agency, and then he wanted a card, like in those days, like a card you could mail out to, all these different people.
A composite.
What?
A composite.
Yeah, the composite for the agency. And it was a big couch that Freddie got, and then I elongated it in the final thing. And it was Andy sitting there, and oh, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Hold on.
We're gonna go see something good.
That's it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I had to get all of them dressed. Yeah.
All of them styled. There's Andy. So Freddie did all the styling on that, and then it went out, and Zoli loved it. I mean, those were amazing days with him and Eileen, and it was pretty incredible.
Well, the agencies were different then. They made stars in those days,
Yeah.
And what was it like working with Andy? How did you meet Andy, Marc?
I met Andy, I was in Rome on the Prix de Rome, and in 1975, Fran Lebowitz came to visit friends of mine in Rome, and they were really busy working, and so they called me up I knew them, and they called me up at the Academy and said, listen, we have this gal who has a column in Interview magazine, and we're really good friends with her, and could you, kind of take care of her and watch her while she's here? So she came up to the Academy in a cab, and then we went down into Rome, and that was like probably in June or something, or July of 75. And then I came to New York, and I was sleeping on the couch of a stylist called Tina Bossity at the time. And I was designing little pictures for Fran's column called I Cover the Waterfront. And I was typing her column on my little Olivetti typewriter. And then suddenly the art director at Interview died. And we had been with her a few nights before, and she wasn't well. And then she was only 27. And so Fran called me up at Tina's and said, you should go over and be the art director of Interview. And I said, I'd never had a job. I didn't know how to do anything. So she said, go over there. And I went over there, and Andy, they all knew me because I'd been hanging out because of Fran's column. And I just went up to Andy and I said, can I be the art director here now? And he said, oh, all right. And that's how I got my job.
Well, and you had the prerequisite. You were cute. You were young and cute.
And I think Andy was impressed that he knew I'd won the Prix de Rome. So he thought that was pretty impressive for their art director. So anyway, I got hired and then made it all up, and kept going. And got to work with people like Freddie.
Was he very involved in the fashion part of it, or did he not?
No, he wasn't. He let us do what we wanted to do. He
never came to the shoot.
What?
He never came to the shoot,
Yeah, not too much. He mostly left it up to me and my team, basically, to bring in the pictures.
What's the best piece of advice you could say, or what's the most important thing you learned from Andy, or that he ever said that kind of really
I
stuck
think
with you?
that what I tell young people is not to be afraid, to just go up there and ask for what you want and ask for what you need, and take it from there, and just not to be fearful. There's a lot of fear in today's world, and I always say, like, don't be fearful, just go up and ask. The worst they could say is no. So that's what I say. Anyway, I'm in the
Very
middle of,
true. Very true.
yeah. Well,
I'm
I'm in the
sorry.
middle of actually filling potholes in my driveway up here in Connecticut. So I have to go back out. Now that's my career. I'm filling potholes in my long
Yeah.
driveway, which is
Well,
just
but
that.
you're still very involved in a lot of projects in the industry.
Yeah, I'm
Don't you
designing
so
books
hard.
and doing some other stuff. I'm in my office here. I have a beautiful office up in the country, and it's fantastic. So I get to have and I'm from near here anyway. So it was like coming back and seeing a lot of friends, old friends, and making new friends, and having a kind of a fantastic. I have a great place up here. I love it.
What should we be looking for next from you?
Well, I'm doing a book with a company called Cheryl Wagner for Rizzoli, which is a company that does beautiful faucets and bathrooms and all this very super high end. So I'm working on a book with them. And then I've got a couple of other projects I can't talk about at the moment, but they'll be coming along.
Well, you were very important. You had a starring role in the Andy Warhol documentaries, actually. A big TV star here. We've got to get his
Yeah,
autograph next time. What
I'm
was that
selling
like
them
being in
now.
something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the documentary since it came out, actually, but yeah, I mean, look, I was there 11 years working for Andy, so it was quite a long time.
As we were kind of talking about it before, and I say it all the time, it's fascinating. First of all, two things I say. One, just what an extraordinary ride fashion is. Like, you get into this business and you just have no idea what you can actually do through your whole career. You're 7 decades in it, I'm 4 or 5 decades in it, you're probably 6, 7 decades in it. You know, it is fascinating too. And it's interesting how we went to work every day, and now it's history. Like,
Well, I mean, I
literally,
look
what
and
you
see
did every
people.
day was your job, and then you're.
I see people doing great stuff now. I see great photography being done, and some of the girls look amazing, and it's just not the same venue anymore. You're placing the images in other places than we certainly did, but a lot of the work looks fantastic. You know, I'm really excited about it.
But isn't it so fascinating that your workplace, interview, the factory, is history? Like, that is a huge part of pop culture
Oh
history.
yeah, it
It was
was.
just a job when you went.
I remember we got a
And, like,
letter.
you don't realize it in the mornings.
We got a complaint letter one time. Robert Hayes showed it to me, and it was a woman who was complaining that she wanted to cancel her subscription to Interview because the magazine didn't fit under her hair dryer at the beauty shop. So we kept that letter up for a while.
Well, again, it was this big format
Yeah, it
magazine.
was
It was very
14 inches high at
special.
one point. All right, well, I'm going to let
And
you guys go and get back to it. Freddie, I love you, and I'm going to talk to you soon. And you too, okay,
okay,
Phillip?
thank you.
All right, be well, guys. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
love you. Thank you. I think yeah. So let's talk about some of our favorite people you've worked with. You know, I think as a stylist, some people just come in, as we talked about, they just put on the clothes, they come and go, and it happens that way. But other people are creative and they want an input. And besides the publicists who are distracting, but like, what was it like being with Madonna? Were you one of the first people to put her in that gold cone goatee?
But what it is, you know, I had struggles, but some people were quite wonderful. And even before Hobbs was up, Irving Penn, he was quite wonderful to me. And I was doing Lancome commercial.
With Isabella, right?
Isabella Rossellini.
Who was before Isabella? Was there somebody before? Was there somebody before Isabella? I remember working with her.
So he was a gentleman to me, and when he died, he left a book and a letter. The book his was on the cover of the book.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, they were real gentlemen in those days, you know. Because in my apartment, that's why I want to read to my apartment. There's such horse,
Yes.
I have 15 pictures of Leiba. I had done this tribute to. You got to go to the apartment,
Yeah.
it was Saks Fifth Avenue, and I had to recreate for Mother's Day, the big sales at Saks Fifth Avenue. They buy perfumes for the Mother's Day present. So Saks wanted to get some attention so that customers can buy it. So they hired a horse to create an image that relates to the perfume.
Okay.
So, for instance, down one person just came with a perfume called Volcan. So I did a bit like Matahari. You know, just like,
yes.
And then there was so I used all of the relationships with perfumes to an image. And I have all these pictures at home. When you come back, I'll show you.
Well, and Diane, first of all, is such a kind spirit. You and Diane remind me a lot of each other. Very, very kind souls. Like people that people that this is like. Oh, really? Oh, she's still around.
She's still around. No, I knew her son.
Yeah.
Egon. No, because Egon was Marc.
Egon. Yes. Is that a brother? Or were they married? Was that?
I forget what the name of
Yeah. I don't think that's a secret, but well, she did well. She found Barry Phillip, so she did very well. But I think the interesting is Diane is such a kind soul. She was the president of the CDA and the CFDA, and like you, I think she's one of those people in the industry that people really love. When you work with someone like Janet Jackson, does she put a lot of influence into what the clothes are? Does she have an idea?
I never had that with her because.
But isn't it a collaborative effort between the two of you, or doesn't she say, "Well, I'm feeling something military"? Or
no. I would just go. We have a conversation, but I was never had to do something that you know.
No, but I'm saying it's a collaborative experience. We kind of talked about this on the walk over, like collaborating with different people and how interesting it is to work with different people.
When I actually worked with her, I didn't have those. She didn't, you know, she just trusted me.
So she would never say, "Oh, I feel like something like this," or
no, I never did.
Really? And what about Madonna? Because she has an opinion.
Oh no, Madonna, she did not have an opinion on what I was.
She just let you put on whatever you wanted to put
Well,
on.
I had a conversation.
Yeah, and so that's what I want to talk about, kind of that process,
Yeah.
and how you get to come to something. It's not like you just come in and say, "This is what you're going to wear."
No, but I had a conversation on this, and then I went to Patricia Fields. She didn't know. Because besides the Gautier, I got two others, but she wants to do Gautier.
Well, she's very tiny, Madonna. She's very petite.
But then I went to Patricia Fields, and Patricia Fields got on the cover. So Patricia Fields, and that was on the cover, and then inside was the girl, the two Gautier.
And was that her first connection to Gautier? Had she been working with Gautier?
No.
Wow, that kind of changed the whole.
Yes. So that was the Madonna story, and then
who do you feel like was kind of the best collaborator? Someone that you really felt like you got to collaborate with?
Well, the ones that I did, really, because she became a state icon, was her.
Oh, we love Elizabeth. Oh my gosh, Billy Ray Cyrus! I didn't see that coming. Did you know that?
No.
Have you seen the picture of her and Billy Ray Cyrus together?
No.
Well, he and Elizabeth are very good. I love Elizabeth. Elizabeth is probably one of the kindest people I've worked with as well. I really, really love Elizabeth and her son. Oh my God, what a beauty.
He stays with me.
He stays with you. Well, she's dating Billy Ray Cyrus now.
Well, what happened was, Elizabeth, when she got, we met through the Estee Lauder.
Yes.
And I was doing Estee Lauder, and they had me do it. So the first perfume she did was a perfume called Pleasure Espresso.
Yes.
And I had to research on what women can relate to. So I thought pink, you know, the girls' color.
Yes.
I got Donna Karan, DKNY outfit. I got her about dogs, pink skirt and a pink sweater. And we were going to do it in a box run by flowers. or pink flowers.
Yes.
So that became the ad for Estee Lauder.
Wow.
And then later on, but the other thing I did with her, I did a lot of editorials with her, Esquire magazine. But with the one with the snake,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I did. But what was one of the things that is one. Anyway, I'm moving back to it. Sorry, I'm
Hello. Yeah. Elizabeth, so did she get the contract after the scandal with you, or was it after the Versace dress? Remember she wore that secret
Versace student craft.
and then she got the
And then she got
yes.
Or no, Austin Powers.
Yes, I remember you two together at that time.
Well, she couldn't use me to do the whole thing because it's all a studio.
Yeah.
But the fashion show sequence, she had me, I could do that. So I got a on-screen credit on that. It was just the one sequence of fashion show.
Elizabeth was really kind. When Adidas sweatpants with the snaps all down the side would come out when I was working with that time in the 90s, early 2000s. And she was going back to London and you couldn't get them here. And she literally brought me back 2 pairs. A white pair with black stripes and a black pair with white stripes because she knew I wanted them. Yeah. Like she's just so kind. She's very, very good. You didn't do the safety pin Versace dress with
No, that was done by Versace.
Versace itself.
Yeah.
But, and I think kind of something like Elizabeth is really someone who has a very style of her own. You know the Elizabeth dress when you see it. But yet she definitely has her own personal style. And it's so interesting to see her son grow up to be such a smart part of the industry.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And he's modeling, correct?
He's modeling, Hello.
And what else what's he working on now? Is he just modeling or?
He did a movie.
Right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes.
He's becoming a director.
Wow, that's exciting. How old is he?
Yeah.
Are you his godfather?
No.
It's honorary godfather, let's say honorary. So I think, I want to talk a second or two. We have only about 5 minutes left, but I want to talk about the difference between different styles, because you and I have run in these parallel universes of June Ambrose. There's so many people that have been around while we've been around. You never really did a lot of the red carpet stuff, particularly. You were more photo shoots, fashion shows, magazines. Well, that was interesting. So when I went to LA, there really wasn't a red carpet fashion. There was no connection between Europe and LA and New York and LA. So I kind of filled that gap because I knew the designers as a model. So I went there because I wanted to do the photo shoots, and I didn't want to work with the models anymore. I was tired of them. I was like, if I can get up and get to work, Naomi can get up and get to work. That's another story. That's a Vibe magazine story we'll share another time. But that's how the celebrity dressing started, because I'd be doing shoots with Selma and J-Lo, J-Lo, and Sandy Bullock, and then they needed something to wear the next night or that night for a shoot. So that's how that all came about. It's so interesting how things, again, we just went to work and did our job, and then now we look back, and that was in 1996, 97, that shifted the whole industry of putting celebrities instead of models on the covers, and just it changed the fashion.
What was also wonderful is that you have to know how to address them. I'm convinced that it is a lot of diplomacy you have to do. Because you go to racks of clothes,
yes.
The designers are wanting their credits, so you have all of that stuff to deal with.
And the magazine pressures behind you.
So,
and the publicists.
The publicists are there and all of that. You got to please the publicists first before you see the person.
Yes. Well, I think in the industry, there's several ways you get to work. Yeah. Either the photographer loves you, which they don't really have the power anymore. I find photographers don't really have the power. The publicist, you have to be on the publicist's good side. The celebrity has to like you, and the magazine has to like you. So there's really 4 ways to come in, and somebody's got to really love you, and you have to be come back. That's an interesting thing. I say this when we talk to the photographers, when we talk to the models. You get the job as a model. You get the job because you're beautiful. Yes. Somebody likes your look. You look pretty, or you're beautiful, whatever. But you get asked back because
you did the job.
And you're a diplomat. And And you behaved on set. You made everybody feel good.
But also, I also covered myself by giving them options.
Yes. You and I were known for bringing rabbits. Loren Scott. Loren Scott, I used to call her the dominatrix stylist because Loren would bring like 3 dresses.
Yeah.
And say, not these 2, this is the one. Like literally. And you and I would get arrested. Because I would go to Loren to pick up Hervé Leger or as a dean from her because they would send it from her. Because in the 90s, there was only one collection. They didn't do like an LA collection. You know, usually now there's the Hollywood samples, there's the US samples from Hollywood, there's the New York samples, the European collections. In the 90s and before, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was only one collection, and if you wanted something from Europe, it had to get sent from Europe. So Loretta,
but also they had offices here.
Yeah, but it was the same collection. Well, not everything, not Armani did, Versace did. You know, of course, Armani, Versace, they did, but really interesting.
Gautier, yeah.
Or no, I get it from AFA.
Yeah,
AFA. Alberta Ferretti. Who are some of your designers that you had the best relationships with? Any great memories of design?
Well, the ones who I had, the ones that I actually worked with, had me had, for instance, Michael Albright, when he did the Lights. I had a wonderful time with him.
And Mugler, you worked a lot with Mugler. Or Karl Lagerfeld. I saw their Chanel cufflinks.
Every year.
Can we show the cufflinks? They're so great.
What is wonderful that Karl Lagerfeld, I knew him. Like that, yeah, I can see the view.
Look at those, a little Chanel gift.
So every year I would get cufflinks from Karl.
How sweet,
Every year. Only because I met him long before Chanel when he was doing Chloe. In London.
Okay.
He used to come, as I said, like a salesman. With the clothes over his arm. With no entourage behind him. And so to Mrs. Burstein, I was working there. So I had a very special arrangement.
Well, and I think we'll finish up on this retail. Retail magazines, the whole industry has changed so much. Modeling, there's no more composites, the photographers. Stores. The stores have changed so much. Brown's was this extraordinary place where you would go to discover these amazing designers. Like there was Bendel's, or we had Diane B here. Where they were the only ones that had Comme des Garçons, Gautier. Like it was a
discovery time. And I remember talking about Bendel's. I remember Steve Borrow was doing a fashion show.
Yes.
In the whole of 57th Street, from 5th Avenue to 6th Avenue, was a catwalk on the street.
Wow! On 57th Street?
In front, the dressed in Bendel's.
Yeah, because that was on 57th Street, yeah.
And then they came out, and then they paraded up and down the street.
Wow! What year was this?
Well, this is in the 80s, like 70s.
Oh, yeah, see, I was wondering why I didn't get an invitation to that. I was still in junior high.
So, against everyone's on this side of the street looking at the...
I think I have to do that now. Well, I kind of did that in Central Park. Freddie came to my fashion show for this in Central Park. Why did you think I do as a first-time designer?
No, it was wonderful. I also, the casting was great.
Absolutely. And whatever, I love the idea of these guerrilla shows, sort of like that, just like in the middle of nowhere. You just keep on doing it. Right down in the middle of Central Park. In June, I might do another one, or at least in September. We'll see.
We should, because it was wonderful. And there's a lot of good attendance you had.
Thank you. Yes, it was really special. And it was very special for me that you were here. Thank you.
You know who we should try to invite next to speak about Constance? Why?
Constance was invited. She was busy. But she came to my fashion show at the Hamptons. I had a show in the Hamptons. I love Constance. We just went to a sustainability event yesterday evening, which is another really important thing right now, sustainability. We didn't really focus on that back in the days, but now.
That's a different story.
Well, we got to wrap it up. We're going to have Freddie back for part 3, I think. It's going to be, he's just got too many great stories. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Era Stories today. Thank you to everybody who's been a part of our careers and a part of this extraordinary journey through us that we all go through. Freddie, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. No, it's wonderful. We'll do it again.